teachers in our congregation, and when I was doing the pastoral prayer and mentioning occupations, I forgot to include teachers. And I've talked to some of you who are having to readjust or transition into teaching online rather than classroom. And what a difficult thing that would be. I appreciate your work. The great spiritual thinker Henry Nouwen once described the season of Lent as that season where winter and spring struggle with each other for dominance. And here in Nebraska, we have seen that just in the last 2 weeks. If you remember last Sunday, it was 70 degrees, or last weekend, 70 plus degrees. I think my car finally got up to 74 degrees. People were outside on the trails. They were riding bicycles, and they were jogging, and they're walking, and they were in shorts and t-shirts. And yesterday we awakened to snow on top of our cars, and we had to clean it off. Snows on the sidewalks here at church. We had to scoop this heavy, wet snow off the sidewalks. Back in January, we were in the deepest part of winter. And our hospitals and emergency rooms here in Lincoln were overflowing with people suffering from the flu. Remember that? I was with a person for 4 hours at St. Elizabeth's one afternoon, and it was packed. And the nurse told us there are no beds. You will have to wait, along with all of the other people in the emergency room. Finally, after 4 hours, we went up and said, we can't stay any longer. The person I was with was not able to stay, and I said, we need to go home. The masses of people that once had the flu virus have healed. And we went on with life as normal for the good part of February and March until 3 weeks ago. And now there's a new virus, the coronavirus, or COVID-19, which seems to be taking the world hostage. And so we have to do everything that we can to stop its spread, even if it means giving up some of our most cherished activities, like church next week. Keep in mind, the offices are open. Groups are welcome to come here. We still feed people at our doors. In fact, the response from the church is probably greater now than it is. And so we're not taking a break, many of us, but we're not gathering in a public space to abide by what the experts tell us. We still will have some groups meeting here at church, however, but we'll be especially attentive to cleaning up. One of my favorite places to visit in the whole world is Italy. You know that. And a couple of our journeys, we've visited Florence. And in Florence, Italy, there is the Church of San Miniato al Monte, which means San Miniato on the hill. It sits above the Arno River, and you can look out at the city of Florence from its steps. It's a peaceful refuge from the hustle and bustle of Florence, which is very crowded in the city center. One unique thing about this beautiful Romanesque church is that it became the main lazaretto in Florence during the flu epidemic of 1630 and 31. A lazaretto is an isolation hospital set up for people with infectious diseases. It's not actually a hospital as a gathering space. A lazaretto may be a ship. It might be a church. It might be a school. Any place for people suffering from an infectious disease. And back in the 1600s, especially diseases like leprosy and flu. A lazaretto is a building used for quarantine And Italy is using those lazarettos once again, as the whole country has been on lockdown, and now Israel too. Thank God, church, we took our trip last summer. The monks and the religious community, then Benedictine, at San Miniato, housed and treated over 10,000 people during the epidemics of 1630, and it's not that large. San Miniato is probably half the size of our worship space here at Bethany. What a testament to the courage and perseverance of humanity and the healing spirit of those who give care to those who are sick. And San Miniato is a testament, like our Rock Karen, to thousands of people who suffered from the flu epidemic in the 1600s. There are a lot of stories in Scripture that focus on giving and generosity and charity and sacrifice and sharing with those in need. It's the timeless quality of this book we call the Bible. One of the traditional disciplines of the Lenten season is almsgiving. The other two are prayer and fasting, and we've talked about those in the last few weeks. Prayer, as you know, is good for the soul. I hope you are doing that every day or more than once a day. Fasting is good for our bodies. But fasting isn't always just about food. Fasting can be about things that are harmful to ourselves and our environment. And so last week we focused on the greening of our world. Almsgiving is good for our neighbors in need. Now, almsgiving isn't a word that we use very much today. In the church, we call it acts of charity, or we call it outreach and mission. And we focus on that many times throughout the year. But almsgiving is more than charity, because almsgiving is characterized by this sense of tenderness and kindness, concern and compassion when we are distressed about people who are in dire consequences or needs around us. What we give to others comes out best when we are joyful and thankful to give what we have so another person might have life. And so coronavirus might be a way of our world coming together. It might be a way of the nations of our world working in concert with each other more drastically in the next few weeks than they have ever done before. What we share, as Janet mentioned, does not always have to be monetary. It doesn't always have to be what we find hard or costly. If that were the case, we wouldn't give, would we? We give because God is calling us to make a difference in the world. And then the nature of God is to give. And so that nature is in our DNA. We were created to give back to the world. As the world brought us life, we give life back to the world, and we do that through almsgiving. In whatever ways we are gifted and blessed to give. So in today's lesson from John chapter 4, Jesus goes to Sychar, a town that is filled with religious and cultural symbolism, as is referenced in the scripture to the well of Jacob and to Jacob and Joseph, his son. So we're at midday, we read, and Jesus begins a conversation with a woman from Samaria while she comes to draw water from Jacob's well. Now in Jesus' world, this woman is an outsider. Remember, this is a patriarchal world. It happened 2,000 years ago. It's so patriarchal that the woman doesn't even merit a name. We only know her as the woman who came to Jacob's well to draw water. This woman has Jewish blood in her DNA, but she knows nothing about the faith that Jesus proclaims. In the eyes of a first-century Jewish male, this woman is a nobody. She is to be avoided in public space. Conversation is definitely off limits. So Jesus, what are you thinking? Being a nobody in church isn't an easy label to wear. Maybe you have felt at times that you have worn that label. Maybe there are times that you have avoided other people, crowds, because you feel you are a nobody. There is psychological and emotional pain when we feel that we don't matter or that we don't measure up. We desperately want to be thought of as someone who matters in the world. And so this story, church, is really good for anybody who thinks they are a nobody. The woman and her community, the Samaritans, and their welfare mattered to Jesus. And they didn't matter to many first-century Jewish people. This woman is someone. And that's the good news that Jesus came to teach. That's his gift. That's his almsgiving. Because Jesus was not a wealthy person. Jesus was a peasant, just like the woman. But Jesus had this gift of helping others draw near to the presence of God. And Jesus was never reluctant to share that gift. There is a message in this story for us, church, and that is that we are to help others draw near to the presence of God, to feel that they are somebody, to feel that their lives matter. This story reminds us that when we tend to look down at people or judge people for who they are, when we look at other groups of people who think differently or act differently or worship differently or dress differently, these people are somebodies in the eyes of God. This is a story about an encounter with Jesus that leads to a dramatic transformation in the life of a Samaritan woman of the first century. This woman begins as an outsider, and by the end of the story, she becomes an apostle. She is sent to tell others what she has experienced, and that is good news. She is a beginner in the faith, a seeker, and she will eventually tell the story and draw others, like Jesus, near to the presence of God. Church, these are wilderness times for a lot of people. These are wilderness times for our educational system because schools are having to adjust to teaching online, teachers online, and online classrooms. And students need a community. Many students who are poor need food, and they need what their schools offer them. They need the love that their teachers give them, and the discipline that sometimes isn't found at home. Parents need to work. They need money to provide food on the table. And so in this time of a pandemic, those who can't work sometimes can't buy food. Nations are in battle against time. And so the world church needs the San Ignatos of the 16th century meaning the world needs a place of hope. The world needs to know stories of courage and perseverance and strength and healing and compassionate care. And even though, church, we may not gather on Sunday morning, and hopefully for just one Sunday, next Sunday, we still will be church. We will be here through the week, and people will come and ask for assistance. Our people who struggle with addictions, with alcohol and drug addictions, will be able to come and meet here, because those meetings are a place of life for those people. So, let's pack up. Let's take a little journey and go to the well. Let's have a conversation with Jesus. Let's draw near to God. We offer you an invitation always to become a part of a community that seeks to be a healing presence for the wider community, and we do that in a number of ways. If you desire to become a part of this community or know more about it, then come and we'll talk.